Welcome to another CollectionDX review. I'm Andrew, taking a look at Evolution Toys 160 scale Variable Fighter VF-2SS in Silvie Gena colors. This is the Valkyrie 2 as seen in Macross 2 Lovers Again. And this toy happens to be the triple threat of the first ever toy of the VF-2SS. Evolution Toys' first crack at a Macross figure and their first crack at a transforming figure. Boy, we're up to 3 strikes already, huh? So here we have the VF-2SS in fighter mode as a 1/60th scale figure. It's around like 10.5 inches long from tip to tail, or tip to feet, I guess. And, well, talking about this thing, this was a non-Kawamori designed Valkyrie from Macross 2. The original design was by Kazumi Fujita, with Koichi Ohara doing cleanup. And it's essentially a futuristic take on the classic VF-1 Now, as I'm manipulating it, my finger is going down to one of the landing gear. So this thing has a full set of die-cast landing gear. The wheels kind of move. It feels like maybe they shouldn't be moving, but they do seem to spin on my figure. And you're going to notice there's a tire missing from this one. So as I was playing around with the toy, it fell off, got lost in the couch, so I'm kind of out of luck with that. So for the rest of this look at fighter mode, I'm actually going to retract the landing gear and just hold the thing up the entire time. So yeah, let me just sneak that back in there. Hopefully none of this is going to come untabbed, as it likes to do as you're picking it up. Some people have had better luck with their figures, and some have done the old, floor polish, super glue, whatever trick to tighten up the tabs. But anyway, so this is a plastic toy. It uses die-cast parts for its internals. It's got, a decent amount of weight. It's not really heavy or anything. It's definitely no like DX Chogokin or anything like that. It's an okay rendition of the VF-2SS. It's definitely very thick on the underside, and it has these big die-cast bars which the legs move around on. That is simply Evolution Toys' very straightforward no-frill solution to the crazy leg delivery panel system. Well, it's not really a leg delivery panel system. It's like these long struts that have their own hinges on them that go in and out, and it's like, I don't know how you would really do that on a toy, at least not one this size. So yeah, this is a fighter mode. It's okay. It's starting to come untabbed. Again, VF-2SS is not really a well thought out Valkyrie, at least in fighter mode, because the only thing that's really holding it together is whatever tabs the designer adds afterwards. It's not like, say, if you'll indulge me for a minute, like on the VF-25 or VF-1 or really any mainline Kawamori designed Valkyrie, where, alright, you got, the wings, they help keep the legs in place, the legs keep the arms in place, etc., etc. So, everything kind of supports each other and keeps it together. Whereas on this, you really can only rely on the extra tabs there. So let's kind of hold on to that for a second, talk about another feature in fighter mode. So you're supposed to be able to take the gun pod and stick it right here. It doesn't really stay on my toy. I think it's worked better on other people's toys. But honestly, I can't blame Evolution Toy for that, because there was no artwork depicting where the gun pod goes when the VF-2SS is bare without its super armed pack. When it has a super armed pack, it either that particular gun pod, the kind of dustbuster looking one, actually goes into one of the leg things, or the arm things, I should say. The leg one is for Nexus Special gun pod. Alright, so one last thing, in fighter mode, there is an opening cockpit, and there's a tiny little Silvie Gena in there that you can take her out, you can put her in. And I will say, they did actually put, and you're not going to see it on camera, but there actually is like a tiny little display on her console right there. So that's a nice bit of detailing. Oh, and before I forget, one more thing. This toy comes with these tiny little plastic caps, which are meant to cover up the front of the tail fins right here. This is little moving hinge. It's got a ball joint and all that kind of stuff. The tail fins, I don't know how to get them to lock in place here. If you can see, there's a tab that sort of looks like it's supposed to go right there. They just sort of like, you let them just stay where they need to be in fighter mode. And getting back to these little caps, don't bother using them, they fall off constantly. So, anyway, let's move right along. And this guy already wants to turn into a gear walk, so let's help him out, shall we? So as I'm manipulating this toy, you're going to find that the real kind of meat and potatoes of the conversion process involves these die-cast swing bars for the legs. Again, the actual design uses very tiny little swing bars. So this is what Evolution Toy was kind of going for here. A lot of people wish that this was a lot cleaner. They'd have to get really clever to actually replicate something like that on a toy of this size, but anyway, you can just kind of bring these out. There's no real locking mechanism here, they just sort of fold out like that. And on the other side, again, you can kind of tell, we just got these tabs here that help keep everything in place. The legs are fairly heavy because they do have, on the inside, there's a whole die-cast assembly in here. And as I'm bringing that out, you can kind of see nice gleaming die-cast innards. So you're going to bring out the arms. Again, this is very VF1-like. And I will say, as I turn this thing into a gear walk, as we go up the modes, this thing does get a lot more stable, I guess, because it's, just kind of copying the VF1 at that point. So anyway, with this, you're just going to bring the shoulder block up like that. There's the tab that was used to hold the legs in place in fighter mode, and those, for the most part, stay in place. I think it's this one, or it might be the other one. The tab is a little too thick, so the whole shoulder assembly tends to eventually work itself off as I'm moving the toy around. So be aware of that maybe the tab might be a little too thick. So the backpack here is going to come up like this whole flap. And these two little moving tabs right here are what help secure the backpack in fighter mode. These are also going to be used in Battleroid mode. Alright, so we're going to come to the back here, and here's kind of the... Ooh, that's a nasty flick. Here's kind of the standard, bring up the backpack like that. This little flap in here you want out for gear walk mode, so you can see it right there. Just kind of keep that out. It does go up for fighter mode, but keep it down for gear walk mode. Actually, you want to keep that up because you need to bring this down and around. And the tail fins go in here, and that's how it works in gear walk mode on this toy, or in this design, I should say. Right here, there's a couple of flip out tabs, and you need to do this for both gear walk and Battleroid mode, so don't forget them if you're going straight from fighter to Battleroid mode. And those are basically going to be where you plug the top part of the intake in for gear walk mode, and also try to keep the toy's head lasers out of the way as you're doing all this. So keep these things out and just kind of get it to go in there. Snaps in place alright. That's actually a pretty good connection, unlike the ones used for just fighter mode. So just get that. Just get that in there. There it goes. There we go. Okay. So this toy does have the standard gear walk joint. There's 3 clicks as far as I can tell. So bringing out 3 clicks. Alright, do it like that. And the feet, there's no real ankle joint, but each toe, or I don't know what you want to call this, thrust vectoring panel, has its own joint, so you just sort of put them like this for gear walk mode. And also, so the reason this toy is actually a little thicker than it needs to be is because there's a hinge here on the wing joint, because the wings are supposed to go up in gear walk mode. I think I mentioned that before, but yeah, so they're supposed to angle up like this in gear walk mode, and here's this thing coming untabbed, which sucks. So yeah, and the reason is, on the original artwork, the shoulder blocks are actually so big that these need to go up to give them room. That's not true on this toy, so it's kind of like, oh, that's just there because it's there in the artwork. And it actually ended up making the toy a little bit too thick in fighter mode. But anyway, so it's got some clicky elbows here. And what this allows me to do is just kind of grab this panel and flip out the hands. I actually like this approach to do just kind of using the actual existing panel lines on the figure and doing it like this, like having it come out to the side instead of the usual make it flip up. So that's actually cool. I'll give them props for that. It works pretty well. Alright, so anyway, gearwalk mode. Alright, so the VF-2SS in gearwalk mode looks decent. I will give the toy some credit. It is much tighter in this mode because it's got access to better tabs, with the exception of this one here, which is like, well, it's slightly too thick and it keeps forcing the damn thing out. So it's got your usual range of gearwalky articulation. This toy does have a number of ratcheted joints in its arms, in the elbows, in the shoulders. This is just a regular swivel though, and this thing's going to keep coming out every time I move it. It will stay in place once we get to batteroid mode though. This is a detented joint. You can kind of see the whole die-cast assembly in there, so that gives it good weight. It's not gonna you know, fall down or anything like that. The only problem is that it's knee swivel, it's right here. It's just kind of conforming to the interior of the thigh right here. So when you bring this down, it's just going to hit against this part of the thigh. So you actually have to kind of leave it like this and sort of get it as far as you can if you want a more proper gearwalk mode. Also, what you could do is you could just completely pop this out and then balance it on the end like that. And then, okay, you kind of got more of an A stance like that, but that might mean it will fall over if you leave that unlocked in or not locked in. But, okay. Anyway, moving on. So the gun pod comes apart, you know, it does that whole thing. It's got a little handguard right there, and it's got a little handle that comes out. There's a slot in the handle. It kind of goes into a tab in the palm. The problem is it's one of those toys where this clearly was not, like, the handle is not designed to go with the fingers. And the fingers, I mean, they're decent, they're blocky, but you've got, you know, there's a wrist joint here, there's the thumb hinge here. It does have a separate trigger finger, so like that. But again, so these are blocky fingers, and the gun pod handle is, you know, accurate to the show, where it's like all curved, and as soon as you start to bring this in, it's going to start to force this to come out because it does not conform to the contours of the handle. So anyways, that's another problem with the toy. Oh, and also I might not have shown this before, but when going to gearwalk mode, you do sort of put these two things together. There's a tab that's supposed to go between the die-cast swing bars. Sorry for not pointing that out before. But anyway, let's continue on into batteroid mode. Alright, so with batteroid mode, you do the usual thing where you, again, kind of unpeg the intakes from the body, as with a lot of Valkyrie toys. Oh, the plastic does not feel good on this figure. I'm sorry. People are saying it feels like a model kit. I think that's an insult to model kits. But anyway, you can bring this back down, do this, just kind of straighten this thing out. Try to keep these tabbed in place if they will stay there like good little boys and girls. You want to bring this thing up, and for the backpack in batteroid mode, these nacelles will slide forward. Actually, you might want to just kind of flip the tail fins in a little bit, because they are going to rest in this back area here. Actually, yeah, do this first. My apologies. And then slide them forward. Alright, do it like that. And I cheated a little bit here. I actually already pulled out these little flip-out tabs from the side of the backpack here. And these are going to line up with holes in the side of the nacelles. And maybe they'll actually go in there. I actually forgot, or I did not know about these tabs when I did a bunch of the pictures for the text review. So please forgive me for that. Yeah, and these are supposed to go in there, and they're not really going in there, not easily. So I'm going to use a toothpick to maybe get them to go. Yeah, you don't really need these. This is a pain in the ass. I'm sorry. They're going to stay up. Whatever. The backpack's not going anywhere. Let's continue. Alright, so you're going to want to get these as tightly together as you can, these two metal swing bars that have the little plastic thing going in between them. You know what feels like a warning sign? The fact that these metal swing bars are on these plastic things. This might be palm plastic, so it might be pretty tough, but it still makes me worried a bit because I don't think they're really supposed to be flexing, and they do tend to flex a lot as you're manipulating this toy. And also here's a problem. Okay, so these rotate, but they rotate in a way that you can feel like a very soft detent between them. So they always kind of tend to force themselves into straight positions like this way. So not quite the angle it needs to be to get in here. So maybe just kind of arrange them like that. And maybe we'll get back to this. Anyway, again, leave these out for Battleroid mode. They're needed in Gearwalk mode. So if you're going straight from fighter to Battleroid, remember to do these. I didn't do that at first, and I was like, oh, what's wrong? It's like, oh, they need to be out. Put these up. These are going to help lock the whole torso together. And now we're going to actually do the whole, like, separate the main body. So one thing that's actually kind of neat is the hinges are actually moving with the nose cone area. So that's kind of interesting how this is all arranged. And this is going to come down. Actually, there's another thing you have to do. I keep forgetting here. So with the head, it's on a little sliding joint here. Pull it forward. This is supposed to actually lock down for fighter mode. I guess it came undone when I wasn't looking. But you didn't notice that because it was still stayed in place in fighter mode. So, whatever. Anyway, so you do this whole thing. You do the usual, like, feed the head through. This moves a bit, like, you know, on the old VF1 this was actually like a panel that opened up, and here I don't know if it's really supposed to move or it's just like made like that, but it does move a little bit and makes me worry. So anyway, so we have this like this, and now I think I have enough room to actually, well, I want to squeeze these things together, so get my fingers in there. All right. So what you're going to do is this whole assembly here is going to go around the thin part and then come up, and it's going to help lock this all in place. These little hinge tabs here are going to go into these little slots right there. And as you're doing all that, there's a little tab here that goes into a slot right here on the edge of the extra intakes on the body. So yeah, you're just going to kind of get this stuff arranged as best as you can as you bring it all together. You're probably going to want to leave the wings up while you're doing this. Yeah, this gets frustrating because there's a bunch of tabs that'll have to be done roughly at the same time. And I'm getting frustrated manipulating this. So you know, I'm going to do this off camera. But take my word for it, you just got to really get that thing in there. Anyway, I will be back. So here is Evolution Toys VF-2SS in Battleroid mode. The only thing I didn't really show you during that whole debacle is you can see here's those little tabs. They've gone into the slots in the front of the body to help bring it together. And there's a tiny pair of tabs that help hold the base of the neck into the body so it doesn't go floating around as you're posing the head. And, well, you know, here it is. The first ever fully transforming toy of the VF-2SS. For a little fun, here's the old Bandai 100 scale kit. It's still not painted since I reviewed it many years ago. Yeah, I mean, this is really the best mode for the VF-2SS as a design, and it certainly shows with the toy because it's all nice, solidly locked together. The limbs aren't fighting for space underneath the main body. They all have their own little places to go, and you know, it looks decent in battle raid mode. I will give the toy that. This is its real best way to be displayed is that it's a good battle raid. Not much to say about articulation that wasn't there in Garwalk mode. You can still do this with the knees, and unfortunately because of the overhang back here, you don't get a whole lot. Just bend the knee straight back like that. You don't get a whole lot with the ball jointed hips either, because this whole thing gets blocked by both the wings and even the back plate, and because of how this is very tightly just kind of locked together, you would have to unlock things to give it a little more space to move around. So at best you're kind of going to get pretty low-key poses. I mean, you can use the Garwalk joint to get at least a 90-degree bend out of the knee like that. It does have an ankle tilt, but the ankle is set so far inside the leg, it doesn't really help. So figure that out. This feels like it's coming apart. I thought I actually tightened that screw in there. Maybe that screw got stripped and it doesn't actually tighten anymore. But anyway, so arms, they can still move, you know, all the way around like that. One kind of cool thing that you can get better use of in battle raid mode that I didn't show you in Garwalk mode is there's this extra joint right here. And that looks weird. But what it's really supposed to do is allow you to get the arm to curl up like that. So the only thing is that now you can't just have the arm straight down like that. I don't know, it's a weird joint. Again, I appreciate that they're using just kind of the existing seams and panel lines from the design to kind of give it that little extra bit of motion. That's one of the few like really clever things about this figure. That and I guess the forearm thing. And you can also give him his gun. And give her her gun. I guess it's, you know, it's a Valkyrie after all. Yeah, it can hold the gun with two hands. I imagine this toy will do okay with the super packs, even though they're gigantic. At the very least, they're going to be all plastic, so what metal is in this toy, and there's a good amount of it in the legs, will at least keep it standing. Probably you're not going to get many action-y poses out of the figure with the packs on, or even like this, again, unless you start untabbing things and unlocking things. So, yeah, this toy. If you are a Macross 2 fan who has been waiting a long time for an actual large-scale toy of the VF-2SS, I would say skip this toy. It's very amateurish. It feels like a toy from the mid-90s. The plastic isn't very good. It feels very lightweight. In certain places, it also is like basically transparent. There's a little too much flex to it. It just... This feels like a garage toy, like some small manufacturer, which admittedly Evolution Toy is not a very big company. They really wanted to make this. They did their darndest to actually make it work, but it only kind of works in, you know, 2 out of the 3 modes, and even the middle mode still tends to fall apart. Garrock mode, I should say. Battle raid mode's nice because everything is locked tight. Of course, it's so locked tight that it can't really move. If you buy this toy at like a heavy discount, you might enjoy having it in battle raid mode because, you know, it looks nice just kind of standing there in battle raid mode. And, you know, I think this is definitely the mode that both the design and the toy manufacturers are really focused on in making this figure. So, yeah. If you're wondering how much this costs, I believe it is new 25,000 yen. So that's around $220, $230, depending on the exchange rate, American money that is. So yeah, this is actually more expensive than a Bandai DX Chogokin. Not as expensive as a Arcadia figure, but those are very much way nicer than this. So anyway, I'd recommend you need yourself a VF-2SS. Well, pay somebody to do the model kit up really nice for you and maybe mod it so that it can take the armor off. Or maybe Bandai will actually make that high metal R, which is 1/100 scale, so it would be like, so it would be like this tall. VF-2SS, they just sort of teased at one of their trade shows. But then again, I'm still waiting for the Robot Damashi Blue Destiny figure. So hopefully it'll come out. Don't hold your breath. Anyway, this has been Andrew for CollectionDX.com saying, don't go riding in this Valkyrie. Please.